"Control your screaming brat, or I will have security remove you both from this aircraft immediately." The sharp crack of flesh meeting flesh echoed through a first-class cabin as Flight Attendant Sandra Mitchell's palm struck Kesha Thompson's cheek, while she cradled her 6-month-old daughter Zoe against her chest. The baby's cries grew louder from the sudden violence. Passengers nearby pulled out phones recording what they believed was justified discipline of an unruly traveler, and an elderly woman in pearls whispered approvingly that finally someone had backbone. Kesha's cheek burned, but her dark eyes stayed steady as she adjusted Zoe's blanket with trembling hands, her boarding pass visible in her lap, showing Mrs. K. Thompson with a special gold status code that Mitchell had completely ignored. The cabin fell silent except for Zoe's soft whimpering and the clicking of recording phones. Mitchell straightened her Navy uniform, her silver wings catching the cabin lights as she played to her audience, energized by the slap and eager to demonstrate real authority to the first-class passengers who had paid premium prices. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption," Mitchell announced loudly, adding that some people simply did not understand proper travel etiquette. Murmurs of approval rippled through the cabin, and a businessman in an expensive suit nodded toward Kesha, remarking that someone needed to maintain standards because people like her thought they could do whatever they wanted. Kesha remained silent, gently bouncing Zoe to calm her, the baby's tiny fist wrapping around her mother's finger in a gesture that should have melted hearts, but only irritated the watching passengers further. Mitchell pulled out her radio and reported to Captain Williams that they had a code yellow in first class with a disruptive passenger refusing to comply, recommending immediate removal before departure as she had already delayed them 8 minutes. Kesha glanced at her phone, which showed 14 minutes until departure and a text notification about a corporate legal merger announcement at 2 o'clock Eastern Time before tucking it away. She spoke quietly that her ticket showed seat 2A and she had paid for first-class service, but Mitchell cut her off with a harsh laugh, saying she did not care what scam was used to get the ticket, because people like her always try to upgrade illegally. A young woman across the aisle filmed on TikTok, saying this was insane because a flight attendant had slapped a mom with a baby. Her viewer count climbing into the thousands of the comments mostly supported Mitchell. Seeing the camera, Mitchell leaned into her role, warning Kesha that if she could not manage her child, she had every right to request a removal per airline policy. Kesha opened her carry-on for baby formula, and a flash of platinum caught the light. An airline executive card quickly hidden again, its design different from standard frequent flyer cards. Her phone buzzed again, showing Skylink Airways executive office, which she declined, drawing a narrowing gaze from Mitchell, who mocked that no one was save her from federal aviation regulations. Passengers chuckled, and the businessman in the suit complained she was holding up 180 passengers with her drama as the captain called for final boarding completion. Kesha checked her watch, a simple black timepiece engraved on the back with the "My Brilliant Wife MT." Mitchell pressed on, giving her one final chance to gather her belongings and deplane voluntarily or face escort by federal air marshals. The TikTok live stream hit 8,000 viewers, with a few skeptical comments, noting that the mother seemed too calm and the flight attendant far too aggressive. A business passenger by the window began typing a forum post titled "Witnessing Discrimination" in real-time Skylink Flight 847, which quickly gained attention among industry insiders. Mitchell again requested immediate ground security assistance, and Kesha spoke for the second time, her voice steady despite the humiliation, advising Mitchell to verify her passenger status before taking irreversible action. Mitchell scoffed, calling her behavior the only irreversible thing, and accusing her of thinking that expensive clothes and a first-class ticket gave her license to disrupt the flight. The elderly woman in pearls leaned forward to scold Kesha for shameful behavior, and more passengers began filming. The incident spread across Facebook Live, Instagram stories, and trending hashtags while Kesha stayed calm, almost unsettlingly so, like someone who knew something the rest of the cabin did not. Baby Zoe quieted in her arms, her dark eyes scanning the cabin with innocent curiosity that charmed no one here. 10 minutes, Mitchell announced with finality. 10 minutes until security would arrive, and the situation would be resolved one way or another. Kesha kissed Zoe's forehead gently and whispered something too soft for the recording phones to capture, yet her eyes carried a knowledge that unsettled the sharpest observers in the cabin, as if she knew something that was about to change. Captain Derek Williams strode to the first-class aisle, his gold stripes catching the light above, bringing with him the presence of a man who had spent 22 years in commercial aviation learning how to project authority in moments of passenger conflict. "What's the situation here, Sandra?" he asked, his voice bearing the weight of Federal Aviation Command. Mitchell straightened with renewed energy in the presence of her captain and reported that the passenger had been disrupted from boarding onward, her screaming child disturbing others, her refusal to follow crew instructions compounded by her argumentative response to being asked to deplane. Williams studied Kesha with the efficiency of a seasoned captain, noting the young black mother with a designer diaper bag, seated in first class, and his assumptions quietly aligned with Mitchell's version of events. "Ma'am, I am Captain Williams, and federal aviation regulations require compliance with crew instructions," he said firmly. On the TikTok live stream, the viewer count exploded past 15,000 as the college student filming whispered to her audience that the captain had arrived, and this was getting serious. Comments flying predicting her arrest and cheering her removal. Kesha adjusted Zoe in her arms and checked her phone discreetly. 8 minutes until departure deadline. She murmured to herself. 8 minutes until what? Williams demanded sharply, already losing patience and reminding her that no schedule she could override federal safety protocols. From the galley, 2 federal air marshals emerged, their plain clothes disguising little to those who knew the signs, and their presence shifted the matter from a passenger service issue to a potential security threat. Air Marshal Rodriguez approached with his hand resting near his concealed weapon and asked the captain for the nature of the disturbance. "Passenger non-compliance," Williams replied curtly, explaining that she was refusing to deplane after crew assessment of disruptive behavior. The business passenger who had been updating an aviation forum paused to take photographs, his post gaining momentum with hundreds of shares and comments. Mitchell sensed her victory was near and addressed the cabin over the intercom to apologize for the delay caused by an uncooperative passenger, promising resolution soon. The announcement stoked passenger frustration, with voices rising demanding she be thrown off, some citing misconnections and the absurdity of the situation. The TikTok live count surged to 25,000 as local news alerts spread through Nashville that a viral incident was unfolding aboard Skylink Airways. Kesha remained seated with Zoe now calm in her arms, her composure so steady it was almost unsettling, as though she were waiting for a prearranged moment. Air Marshal Johnson took position on her other side and instructed her to gather her belongings and leave voluntarily. "I need exactly 5 more minutes to resolve the situation," Kesha said softly. Williams scoffed that she needed 0 minutes, reminding her that this was a federal aircraft under his command and she was creating a safety hazard. The elderly woman in pearls raised her voice with cameras, declaring that she had been flying for 60 years and that this kind of entitled behavior was exactly what was wrong with modern air travel, drawing nods of agreement and cementing the public narrative of a disruptive mother defying a professional crew. But the business blogger saw something the others missed, his industry instincts noting the subtle details that did not fit. He typed furiously that the passenger showed no signs of distress, that she was too calm, too controlled, and that something else was at play. Kesha's phone buzzed again, the caller ID flashing Skylink Corporate Emergency Line before she declined once more. Mitchell narrowed her eyes and demanded to know who kept calling, sneering that no one on the ground could override federal law, drawing more approving chuckles from nearby seats. The businessman in the expensive suit lifted his phone higher to record Mitchell's display of authority. 6 minutes until mandatory departure, Williams announced, checking his watch as he noted that ground security was boarding. Outside the windows, airport security vehicles surrounded the plane, their emergency lights flashing. The situation had moved well beyond the standard passenger removal. The TikTok stream climbed to 32,000 viewers, and the flight incident began trending nationwide with screenshots spreading across Twitter. Instagram and Facebook feeds now showed the confrontation from multiple angles as ground security officers boarded to the forward galley, their equipment clinking with restraints, radios, and cameras, everything necessary for a forcible removal. "Ma'am," the lead officer announced with authority, "by order of the flight captain and federal air marshals, you are being removed from this aircraft, so please comply voluntarily." Kesha slowly looked around the cabin, her gaze sweeping over the recording phones. the hostile faces, and the wall of authority gathered against her. Baby Zoe gurgled softly and reached toward the shiny badge on the security officer's chest. "For minutes," Kesha said quietly. Williams's face flushed with anger as he barked that she had 0 minutes and ordered the officers to escort her and her child from the aircraft immediately. The security team closed in as passengers leaned forward, phones ready to capture the spectacle, while the TikTok live stream viewer count surged to 38,000. Yet in Kesha's eyes there was no panic, no pleading, no resistance, only patience, as though she were still waiting. Air Marshal Rodriguez hesitated and offered her the chance to present any legitimate concern or documentation, but Williams cut him off sharply, saying they did not negotiate with disruptive passengers, and ordered her removal. Mitchell stepped forward, triumph in her voice, proclaiming that this was exactly why security protocols existed, that some people thought they could manipulate situations with fake emergencies and social media theater. Applause broke out in the cabin, and the live stream comments praised the crew's professionalism. Kesha kissed Zoe's forehead and whispered something inaudible before reaching for her phone with deliberate calm. 3 minutes, she said. "Time's up," Williams declared, ordering the officers to proceed. As they moved in to restrain her, Kesha pressed a single contact and switched to speakerphone. "Hi, honey," she said softly. "I'm having some trouble on your airline." The voice that answered made Captain Williams freeze in place. "Which aircraft, sweetheart? I'll handle this personally." Every Skylink Airways captain knew that voice, the voice of the man who signed their paychecks. "Flight 847 first class." Kesha replied in a tone almost conversational. "The crew is being creative with customer service." The speaker crackled with barely controlled fury as the man introduced himself. "I'm Marcus Thompson, Chief Executive Officer of Skylink Airways. Everyone on that aircraft needs to step back from my wife immediately." The cabin went silent, except for Zoe's soft cooing and the distant hum of ground equipment outside. Mitchell's face turned pale as realization struck, and Williams staggered backward, his authority collapsing in front of passengers. The TikTok live stream rocketed past 45,000 viewers, and the comments exploded with disbelief and glee at the revelation. Plot twist. She's the CEO's wife. They're so fired, holy. Security officers recoiled from Kesha as if she were radioactive. Marcus Thompson's voice cut to the cabin like ice as he told Captain Williams and Miss Mitchell that he would be reviewing the incident personally, and he meant personally. Kesha stayed perfectly composed, gently rocking Zoe as 180 passengers and crew stared in stunned silence. 2 minutes until departure, honey," she said sweetly. "Cancel the departure," Marcus ordered. "We have bigger problems to address first." The woman they had tried to remove on the airline, and everyone had just watched it happen. The silence in the cabin was suffocating as 180 passengers and crew members stared at Kesha Thompson as though she revealed herself to be something alien. Baby Zoe gurgled happily, blissfully unaware of the corporate earthquake her mother had set into motion. Marcus Thompson's voice poured to the phone speaker with an authority that felt immovable, asking if Kesha and Zoe were physically safe. She answered calmly that they were fine now, though Miss Mitchell had slapped her in front of everyone when Zoe was crying. The weight of that admission struck the cabin like a lightning bolt, and passengers recording the moment suddenly realized they had captured the assault of their airline CEO's wife. Phones trembled in guilty hands until Captain Williams finally found his voice, calling it a misunderstanding. Marcus cut him off sharply, saying he was watching a live stream where tens of thousands had just witnessed his wife being assaulted. The TikTok stream had already exploded to 47,000 viewers as a college student filming struggled to keep her phone steady, while comments poured in so fast they blurred together. Passengers whispered about careers ending and reputations being destroyed, while Mitchell backed against the galley wall, her expression flickering between disbelief, terror, and denial. She tried to dismiss Kesha as just a passenger with a crying baby, but Marcus's voice turned deadly calm, reminding her she had just called his wife just a passenger after physically assaulting her, and that he was recording the conversation for legal purposes in the back. A business blogger on an aviation forum froze mid-sentence when his post hit thousands of shares.